had Hubie Brown, who's a great baseball fan and loves the Braves, and he was raving about Anthopoulos to me on radio yesterday. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But Hubie was a great coach in the ABA and the NBA, and Hubie turns 90. He turns 90 on Monday, so I had him on to celebrate his great career. And we were talking about the Kentucky Colonels, the ABA champ, the last ABA team that won the title, by the way, in '75. And lo and behold, who did Kentucky beat in the second round of that year's ABA playoffs to get to the final? They beat the St. Louis Spirits. And lo and behold, who is the play-by-play guy of the St. Louis Spirits in the mid-'70s? You're looking at him. Robert Costas. Bob, welcome. Nice to chat.
Thank you. I've got a note already, even before you mentioned it. I've got a note to call Hubie on Monday when he turns 90. I guess he was in his early 40s when he was coaching the Colonels, who had a great team. Artis Gilmore, Dan Issel, Louis Dampier, who holds the all-time record for three-pointers in the ABA. And the Spirits, who only lasted for 2 years, the 74-75 and 75-76 seasons. Then, in essence, the ABA folded and only 4 teams got in: the Spurs, the Pacers, the Nuggets, and the Nets. The Spirits, in their first year of existence, they had been the Carolina Cougars. They moved to St. Louis. They beat Dr. J and the Nets in a huge upset in the first round, and they were giving the Colonels all they could handle in the next round until some injuries kind of depleted their roster midway through the series. And Hubie's Colonels went on to win, and then they beat the Indiana Pacers, who won 3 of the 9 ABA championships, kind of the flagship franchise of the league. They beat the Pacers in the finals, so they became the ABA champions that year. And then the next year was the final year of the league, and Dr. J and the Nets beat the Nuggets in the finals to close out the ABA's history.
Good job by that. I said it was the last year. I made a mistake. Bob is an ABA genius. We all know he's an MLB genius, too. Let's get a couple things going here. Let's get to the baseball.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting here. Let's give you a big picture. I think it's great because you got a lot of teams that normally, Arizona, the Orioles, you know, it's Texas, Seattle, that don't normally play in postseason play. You don't got the big stalwarts. No Yankees, no Mets, no Red Sox, no Giants. Who knows where the Cubs might line up. So this is going to be an interesting month for the sport with a lot of teams that you're not that familiar with playing in October, which is great in the big picture, but it'll be interesting to see how this translates in America. Let me get your thoughts on that first. Go ahead.
Well, you still have the Cubs alive. You've got the Braves, who are kind of a regional franchise, very much alive. The Dodgers are right there. So I don't think you really lack for potential interest. Obviously, the New York teams help you in terms of a market if they get into the postseason. But I don't think this postseason is going to cause America to turn its back on the game. I think there's a lot of potential matchups. You could have a division series matchup, at least theoretically, between the Cubs and the Dodgers. And that's a big market matchup, not just in terms of market size, but in terms of the history of the teams. Something else that might come out of this in terms of the industry itself, you mentioned the Mets and the Yankees, but the Padres have the 3rd highest payroll. None of them had even a decent season, deeply disappointing. And you've got guys like, and we hate to single him out yet again, but he's a perfect example, guys like Giancarlo Stanton, the Yankees on the hook for close to $100 million, 4 more seasons. They may just have to eat that contract. I think the game is tilting younger. When you look at young teams like the Orioles, teams like the Orioles and Rays, who are way down near the bottom of payroll size, but have figured out a way to be competitive and to have a core of young players arrive through their system, supplemented perhaps by a few veteran additions, key trades. They can't go too deep on high-price free agents, but if they make a smart pickup here and there, that's the way you supplement a team. So I think that, you know, it's a copycat industry, and a lot of teams are probably looking at the relative failure of some high payroll teams and the relative success of some low payroll teams who are younger. Not that they're going to all of a sudden cash out on everything and have a $60 million payroll, but I think that there's an adjustment that could be going on in the industry based on what we're seeing right in front of us.
Do you think the Orioles have had a great season no matter what happens in the postseason? Or do you think the Orioles got to stamp this great regular season with at least a win in a round? What's your take on that?
Well, because the expectations were relatively lower, I don't think it would be a catastrophe if they were to lose. First of all, they got to hold off the Rays and win the division so that they avoid that wild card round, which is particularly treacherous. But let's say they're in the division series one way or another, either by winning the division or winning in the wild card round. And then they lose as long as they play fairly well in the division series, in the scenario you're talking about. I don't think that people in Baltimore would say this has been a disappointing season. I think overall it's been a revelation, and it's an indication that they have good things to come because they have that young roster.
Would you like to see them seed the teams based on wins, or do you still want to give the divisional team like Minnesota the third seed? Because let's face it, you'd rather be the sixth seed in the American League and get the Twins, and that's just accurate. They can sit there and deny that all they want. They would rather be in that scenario than be the fifth seed and get Tampa. So to avoid that problem, would you like to, and with the balanced schedule now, you can get away with it, would you like to rank 1 through 6 based on record as far as the first rounds are concerned? Let me hear your take on that. Go ahead.
As long as we have divisions, and the day may be coming when they expand to 32, that you'll have 8 4-team divisions rearranged geographically. Yankees, Mets in the same division, White Sox, Cubs, etc. And you'd have the 4 division winners and then 2 overall wild cards. But until that day comes, and you've got 3 divisions for the time being, winning the division has to mean something. So bear with me here. I think we've talked about this at least once before. This is what I think they should do. The 3 division winners, even if it's a relatively weak division, the 3rd best division, they should be exempt from the wild card round. The 5th and 6th qualifiers, the bottom 2 wild cards, play a 1-game knockout on the number 5 seed's home field. That's already been proven to be accepted by fans. It's what it was until a year or so ago. A 1-game knockout, an elimination game. TV likes it. There you go. The survivor of that goes to the home field of the best wild card. The best wild card is very often the second best team in the league. Think of the Dodgers in 21 when they won 106. But they deserve an advantage over the other wild cards, and they have that advantage because they're not subject to, in this proposal, they're not subject to the 1-game knockout, and the other team has to use a portion of its pitching staff and then travel to you for all 3, potentially, of a best 2 out of 3. And then whoever comes out of the wild card round, the division winner with the best overall record gets to pick whether it wants to play the wild card survivor or the 3rd division winner. You have to protect the 2nd division winner because, in theory, you want them to meet, or at least have the chance to meet, in the LCS. You get to pick which one you want. It might be based on record, but it could also be based on how that team is playing right now, what they had to do with their pitching to get to the division series round, how you match up with that team, whatever it might be. And this is the important part. The division series then becomes best of 7. Nobody's saying it's a bad thing that the Phillies or the Padres beat the Braves and the Dodgers, whom they finished way behind in the same division over the course of a season. That's fine. That ought to be possible. But you should make it a greater test. And best out of 7 is a better test than best out of 5. And when you think about it, since the LCS is best of 7, and of course the World Series is, why should the only round, other than the wild card, that is guaranteed to include a wild card and the 3rd best division winner, why should that be the one that's most subject to a crapshoot kind of outcome? So if you did all that, you'd have gradations of difference, advantages and disadvantages, appropriate advantages and disadvantages based on regular season achievement. Would it guarantee that the best teams get to the LCS and then to the World Series? No, and it shouldn't. Would it guarantee that the lesser teams have no shot? No, and it shouldn't. But the balances would be different, and they'd be appropriately different. You'd have the best team's advantage and the lesser team's disadvantage.
Right. The only thing that teams wouldn't like, nobody wants to pick who they're going to play. Because that's great bulletin board for the team that has to play the best. Oh, you want us? I will show you. And that's not what GMs or managers or owners want to do, is pick their opponent. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I understand that. On the other hand, it's great for baseball conversation. It's great fodder for fans. There's a strategic element to it. It's not automatic. You make the decision based on a variety of factors. But I'm trying to address your concern that the division series matchup itself might actually disadvantage the better team. For example, the Guardians, as it turned out, gave the Yankees a run for their money in the division series last year. But in truth, Seattle was a better team than the Guardians, and Seattle wound up playing the Astros, who had a better record than the Yankees, and had beaten the Yankees, I think, 5 out of 7 head-to-head. Now, the Astros swept Seattle, but games 1 and 3 were epically close. Game 1 was won on the Alvarez homer in the bottom of the 9th, and Game 3 in Seattle went 18 innings before the Astros prevailed 1-0. So you should have, I'm trying to create circumstances where every step along the way, there are advantages and disadvantages based on what you did over the course of a long season.
I don't have a problem with it. To me, I would make some immediate changes, but I'm with you on that. Well done. Good job. Well done, too. Call Ubi on Monday, Bob.
I will.
And thanks for a few minutes here today. Keep up the great work.
All right, Don.
You got it.
Good to see you.